Welcome back to our special continuous coverage of what is happening at the UNGA in New York, where more than 90 heads of states or governments will be participating in this year's United Nations General Assembly session. Now, this, of course, is the world's biggest forum to debate, to discuss and also resolve international issues in a peaceful manner. But also, there are a few notable high-profile leaders who have decided to give the summit a miss this time round. And there are, of course, the usual suspects who are generally never seen after the UNGA. And topping the list is, of course, this man that you're looking at on your screens, Vladimir Putin, who has largely decided to stay away from the UNGA. He had last attended it 4 years back in 2015. Now, another gentleman who's also decided to give this meeting a skip is Chinese President Xi Jinping, who is also not attending despite the overwhelming call to reduce trade tensions between China and USA. And Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu is also not attending the summit due to the political uncertainty back home. Remember, the recent Israeli elections threw up a hung verdict, and there is uncertainty over government formation. And Benjamin Netanyahu is, of course, back home trying to sort out and see if he can forge an alliance. Now, another gentleman who's also giving it a skip is Canada's Justin Trudeau, who is locked in a fierce electoral battle, and the brown-face scandal has only compounded his problems. Canada, of course, is heading for a general election next month. Now, Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, has also announced that he will not be heading for New York this year for the UNGA. Is currently struggling with the growing violence against foreigners in major cities such as Pretoria and Johannesburg in his home country. Now, another notable leader who's also giving the UNGA a skip is Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro. Maduro is facing a political crisis back home, with many countries having supported his rival Juan Guaido, someone who's been propped up by the United States. Now, Maduro instead is sending his vice president to New York to raise the issue of US sanctions. Now, a closer look reveals that domestic politics tends to be predominantly the reason why, as to most of these leaders are skipping the meet. Now, there are also a few debutantes at the UNGA this year, and they've already created a few ripples in international politics. The first one that we'll talk about is this gentleman on your screens. Boris Johnson will be making his debut at the UNGA as the British Prime Minister. Now, he's already facing some momentous anguish back home over Britain's planned withdrawal from Europe. Now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is also in New York for the first time as the Ukrainian president amidst a raging international scandal involving a phone call with Donald Trump. Now, Trump allegedly had asked Zelensky to launch a probe against former Vice President Joe Biden's son in exchange for US aid. The Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro will also be making his debut at the UNGA. Remember, he'll in fact be the first leader to address the assembly as is the tradition, and he'll have a lot of explaining to do as to why the Amazon rainforest is on fire.